It's Wednesday, folks, which means it's another Tuck Shop podcast. I'm Matt Cernell coming to you, as always, on our great show, and I'm here with a slightly older David Janicek. Happy birthday, David!
Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that.
I was laughing. We have a whole bunch of cool stuff, and we have a great interview coming up with Dr. Ben Vinzani. But I wanted to point out to you, and you and I talked a little bit online, is you have all this life stuff going on. You know you can spread things out in life, right? You don't have to do everything in one go. It's like you decided that, okay, for the first quarter of 2025, you're going to do all these life events.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way, and
you
then
can spread it out.
Coast.
Coast for what, the next 30, 40 years?
Wait do you see my next... Yeah, wait do you see the future. Coast.
Did you have a good birthday?
I did.
You went to see the rodent get pulled out of the stump.
Yeah, we went to was Gobbler's Knob.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just leave it at this. I came out with more questions than answers.
It seems like something that my impression, I've talked to people who've gone, is it's an experience worth doing once to try to understand, but it's not you're not going to make this a yearly event.
No, and that was exactly the strategy. However, we were there and met up with, wasn't planned, but we met up with another townsperson she was on her 36th year.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was, I guess, now an honorary member of the Inner Circle. Which I don't know what that gets you, but interestingly enough, I
would hope it would be one of those nice big hats.
No, what would be nice is if they gave you like a nice big fur coat.
Was it cold?
Oh my gosh. It's funny because you see things like 19 degrees and you don't realize how cold 19 degrees is until you're standing on.
How long were you outside with it?
Well, we got there at about 3 o'clock in the morning and
they don't do it till 7:30 or 8.
So you're like, what do you do for 5 hours other than freeze? It's cold.
I've talked to many people who go and they imbibe refreshing alcoholic beverages.
There didn't seem to be a lot of that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. At least it wasn't. Nobody was offering. So,
but you didn't know the right people.
That's true. But anyhow, the interesting, I read an article on one of the local, it was a national radio station. The date is picked. This is interesting because it's the halfway mark between winter and spring solstice.
Oh.
So I didn't know that, but it's this, hey, we're halfway through this cold winter.
Let's go stand outside and play with
just say, hey, we're halfway there, but I don't understand where the groundhog prediction, there's a lot of other ways, like let's all meet at so-and-so to celebrate or wherever and meet and have a dinner. I don't understand why you have to do it with the groundhog at 17 degrees.
Well, Dr. Cheney was very nice to send out to the geography and geology departments, the new geosciences group, that statistically the one in New York is much more accurate than Punxsutawney Phil.
I also heard somewhere where Punxsutawney Phil, and this is kind of interesting, that, and again, don't quote me on this because I was kind of half listening, where in the ranking of rodent weather meteorologists, I guess you could call them, he's ranked like 16th or 17th in accuracy. So that means that there are 16 or 17 other groundhogs that are better at predicting the weather than our very own Punxsutawney Phil.
Maybe he's in the wrong business. Maybe he should be like picking the Super Bowl winner for Sunday.
Oh, it's a 50-50. Well, I guess it's a 50-50 chance.
That's a 50-50 chance either way.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Well,
but hey, it was part of
at least you got out.
Birthday celebration to go out to the one and done.
It looked cold, and I was glad that I was in my home.
It was cold.
Standard policy. If you want to go outside, that's good for you.
Yeah.
I'll be in the warm.
I would hope that it helps the local economy.
I'm sure.
There were like 40,000 people there.
Yeah. No, it's like anything else. It's like it's Sturgis has the bikes and Punxsutawney Phil has their thing, and it's like anything else. It is a touristy economic.
Because I can't figure out any other reason to be out at 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for a groundhog to be pulled from a...
You were the one who did it.
Well, okay. Done.
So what do you got going on?
Okay, so let me... On things that are more relative to our podcast here. So just wanted to go over a bunch of stuff that I'm going to kind of, rip through them real quick because there's, stuff going on here, alumni related. It's, once again, the Mountain Cat couples. If you met here, got engaged, got married, send me your stories, send me your pictures. The deadline for that, we're going to start posting those on Monday, week of Valentine's. So if you can get me something before then, I'll get it on to our Facebook page. You can send those to dgj7@pitt.edu. Winterfest, which is coming up on February 14th and 15th. Deadline for registration for that is also midnight Sunday. Check out the link on our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, the athletic website, the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown website. It's a good time. Friday night wrestling match, then reception, then Saturday 2 basketball games, men, women, hospitality room from the alumni. We have a live band this year called Silver Screen, local Johnstown band, pretty popular. And then we wrap it all up with bonfire. So it's always a good time. Pitt Day of Giving, February 25th. Again, keep an eye on our social media platforms for how and when to give to that. 2 other things I do want to kind of mention. April 5th, hockey game, alumni hockey game. Johnstown Chiefs, I believe, against the Maryland Black Bears.
Close.
Some kind of bears.
No. You got their team right. We have not invented time travel. It is not the Johnstown Chiefs coming back.
Wow.
It is the Tomahawks team.
That's true. I went back to 1984.
Good while, yeah.
Thank you for pulling me back out of that vortex of time.
We are working on time travel here in the department, but have not perfected it.
Well, come on down anyhow. Great hockey. One last thing I do want to mention. Keep an eye out. We'll be dropping the registration page in March for the Mountain Cat Media, Music, and More reunion that's going to be on May 30th and 31st. And that includes anyone that was involved in the radio station, the TV station, the advocate, the programming board. We're even, open to entertaining those that were part of Backroads or the yearbook. It'll be a great time. You can lodge on campus. Like I said, we're going to drop that beginning of March. So keep an eye out for some save the date cards, that kind of stuff going up. But
that's going to be a huge reunion. It's going to be great. Those guys and ladies that have been working on that one are so excited and so pumped up as a committee and a group. And there's some folks who are been working there that are part of the alumni board. There's some folks who are alumni. There's some folks who are former staff, people who've been on this podcast that are doing some really cool stuff, reaching out. So that's the one I'm really excited to see.
Keep an eye out. There's some cool. Yeah, they're planning some cool activities throughout the day or throughout the 2-day period. We'll start with a mimosa brunch. Got to have mimosa brunch, and we'll end the whole thing up with a cookout. So keep an eye out for that. All these, like I said, best place to stay informed. If you're not subscribed yet, check out the podcast. Definitely subscribe to that, but also check out our Facebook page and our Alumni Association LinkedIn page. This information is up there pretty regularly. So be informed.
It's worth following.
Absolutely.
LinkedIn, Facebook, across the board. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort in a lot of this stuff, and there's something kind of for everybody. Mm-hmm. Don't golf, that's fine. Come out to the hockey game. Yeah. You weren't a member of didn't have a Mountain Cat couple story. That's great. Come out to the reunion or something.
Come to the Winterfest.
Come to Winterfest.
It's family oriented activities throughout the day. Bounce houses. Like I said, basketball games, wrestling matches, bonfires, something for everyone.
Yeah, something cool going on here. We have a calendar that's just full of stuff, basically from now through
trying to spread
end
it
of May. Again, David, can we talk about spreading stuff out?
Trying to spread this out.
Actually, the funny thing is, we're meeting about in the next week or so about stuff that are going to take part in the fall already.
Absolutely.
So we're always doing something here.
And at one point, we'll talk about the golf outings we're planning also. So.
First meeting of that here is coming up in a couple hours. So
spring one, and then a fall one.
And then a fall one. We're going to have a lot of stuff to go. But good to have you back, David.
Hey, it's good to be back. 1 day older. 1 year older.
We'll make it. We'll make it work. I was very lucky the other day to sit down with a friend of mine and do an interview and hang around campus and everything. So we're going to go talk to Dr. Ben Vanzini right now and hear his story. Ben graduated 1974. It was the second full class here at UPJ. So a lot of great stories, and his life has just been a fantastic, fantastic tale. So let's go talk to Ben. I am really excited to see my old friend. Thank you for coming back, Dr. Benedict Vinzani. Thank you for coming up. Good to see you again. Campus is where you left it?
Left it
all those years ago?
I left the campus 50 years ago.
Your class, you were just telling me before we started, class of 74.
74.
What did you major in?
History and political science.
What drove you to history and political science?
Well, I always loved history. Political science was always intriguing. Not necessarily politics, but government. There's a big difference between politics and government.
Very much so.
So at that time, UPJ's political science was sort of embryonic. There wasn't, there's a lot of courses, but you couldn't always get a major in it at that time. So I took history and political science and concentrated in both of them. I originally came from West Virginia, and my neighbor was the Preston County Clerk of Courts.
Okay.
And every time I would go back, and our family would go back to our town in Terra Alta, West Virginia, I'd visit with him, and he'd tell me about his job in government. And it was so intriguing that at that time, I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I decided, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to like to study government. And that's what led me to it. And I've had great professors down here in history and political science. Dr. Alexander, he's a legend.
I talked to him this morning,
I
by the
saw
way.
him on my way in. I just looked in the class, and there he was. It was just like time stood still for 50 years. Dr. Robert Hunter, Dr. Hunter, Dr. Sheep, Mrs. Bennett, all the political science. Like Dr. Corey was my very last class here at UPJ in geography.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my very last day here, he said, what are you students planning on doing after this class, after the summer, after you've graduated? And I said, well, if things work out, this is my very last class. I've graduated, met all the requirements, and if things work out, this is it for me. And I remember saying that to him. And what's really nice, I was down to meet with some students several years ago that were political science majors, and I was asked to come back and talk with them, and it was a great experience, and I appreciate that. I saw him, and I went up and told him that story. And I think professors, they seemed to be humbled by that, that I remembered that after all these years. But
I could, as somebody who does that as a career, yes. Wouldn't you like, that made a difference? You remember that moment that's an anchor point. It really does mean stuff.
It makes a difference to the student and the professor.
Yeah.
Or instructor. And it's, UPJ was just so full of great people, students as well as professors that make a difference in your life.
So you're you're living in town, decide to go ahead and get your degree. So you come to UPJ.
Yes.
Nothing else? You never considered anyone else? It's a different dynamic back in this would have been 1970.
I started in 1970. The 60s had just ended. 60s were a whole unique experience. So the 70s started. You still had the Vietnam War and all the things that were associated with campus life back then. I never considered seriously any other fields. I'm from Somerset. Mm-hmm. After my family moved from West Virginia up to Somerset when I was in second grade, so it was a natural to flock to a major university 30 miles away. And I remember my parents taking me down when I was down here for just to check the campus out several years before I graduated high school. And at that time, as a young kid, you don't always appreciate what is close to you. And I said, yeah, it's a nice place. But I never really gave it a thought until like junior and senior year of high school. Said, yep, I want to go here. So I was very fortunate to be accepted. And speaking of the period, like 1970 to 74, we started out, like I said, with the Vietnam and things like that. And it ended up in 74 with things like, if you're a fan of music, Ray Stevens and The Streak.
Okay.
Yep. That was popular down at this campus. And I remember it making Channel 6 News one evening.
Oh, wow.
Students streaking. So it was a unique experience, just a great campus. It's a great experience. And, I was, there were a lot of commuter students back then. And being from Somerset, we carpooled with 4 or 5 of us. And that's a whole other experience that you never forget. Mm-hmm. And I still have friends to this day that remember things that went on when we commuted. And it was sometimes challenging in the wintertime. And
as the kid, because in that period of time too, we were talking before we started recording that you're the second class that received a degree from UPJ.
Yes,
proper. Did you know that was going to be the option coming in 1970, or were you kind of informed of that transition after you got here? And it would be, you are going to get a 4-year degree. You don't have to finish in Oakland.
It was afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, I was fully expecting to continue at the main campus. In fact, I think I was in one of the very first classes that we had closed circuit television broadcast from the main campus for those of us who were poli-sci majors, concentrators. It was East Asian politics, which we nicknamed Chinese politics. And there were 6 of us, I believe, that gathered in a small room, just like we're here now. And we we're broadcasting live from the main campus for us 6 majors that wanted to study political science. So we got credit for that course from the main campus. And I think that might have been the very first time that they tried to expand the curriculum from the main campus to those of us who couldn't get all the courses here in Johnstown. But a lot of us at that time fully expected to transfer to the main campus.
And what was that like when they said, hey, no, you can actually just finish here and not have to do that?
Oh, it was great.
Was it great?
It was great, yes, because you had a chance to continue where you were, and with the great education and the convenience, obviously, of being able to drive back and forth to school. And a lot of us, for economic reasons, were able to do that.
The what was, and we have a wide range of folks that listen to this show. Whether it's some of the students, we have education students, we have alumni from all generations and stuff. But what was campus like physically when you were here as a student?
Physically,
you've been around from alumni events and association work and everything today. You see the changes. What was campus like?
Well, it was very different. After my first term, it was called North and South Hall. Biddle and Krebs were not Biddle and Krebs when I started. It was North and South Hall. I came back for my second term, and they were renamed. And I thought, what's going on here? So you had those 2 main academic buildings, and you had the student union. And then you had the student union housed the library. There was no library. The library was not completed until, I think, 1974, one of my last terms here. So we didn't have that. Mm-hmm. The dorms, I think there were only 2 dorms when I started.
Oh, wow.
And you can see how it blossomed. So it was very different. And, it was a growing campus. I mean, it was not stagnant. As people became aware of the gem that is right here locally, the people kept wanting to come here for their education, and therefore it kept growing. But there wasn't that many buildings when I started, and it was very different.
And it's interesting to see how that continues, and even with now the addition of Campus Commons down with the old Metropolitan building kind of back. You would have been here, or at least around, with parts of what would have been campus when that property was originally part of campus to begin with.
Yes.
So that's kind of the time frame we're talking about. So you sat in that last class and you told my buddy Bill Corey about I'm done with my classes.
Yep.
I introduced you as doctor.
Yes.
So you were wrong? That wasn't your last class?
Well, no, I was able to get through Kennedy Western University a PhD, which took probably 7 years to get. And it was a good experience. I didn't have to attend physical classes. It was an online, and I got it that way through proctoring. Okay. And actually, my advisor was from the University of Pittsburgh.
Oh,
from there, yeah.
What's the focus of your PhD?
Public administration.
Public administration.
Yeah.
Because we should probably talk about that. What did you do career-wise then when you left?
Well, when I left, I was in private industry for around 3 years. I worked at Highland Tank and Manufacturing Company in Stoystown, which was out of my major, but it was still a great job to have. And then I had an opportunity through the Somerset County Commissioners. They appointed me a planner with the Somerset County Planning Commission. So I spent some time there at the County Planning Commission in 1977 and 78. And then my big break came when I attended a class in public affairs that was sponsored actually by Penn State University. And I met the borough manager of Somerset. His name was John Kane at the time. I explained to him what I did for the county planning commission. And I said, I'm looking for a job a little bit different other than planning. So he took me over to his office. I remember him taking me over to his office, gave me an application. 2 weeks later, he gave me a call and offered me a job as his assistant. So it's amazing. You think back, if I hadn't attended that class, if I hadn't went up and talked to this gentleman who turned out to be the city manager, where would I be right now?
And we're talking time frame 78?
1978.
78?
Yes. So I started as the assistant borough manager in Somerset Borough in 1978. I served under two managers, John Kane and Mike Mahaney. And then when Mike Mahaney resigned to become city manager at his hometown in Virginia, I was given the chance to become manager in Somerset in 1986. So from 1986 until my retirement in 2015, I was employed by Somerset Borough full-time as the city manager. And 10 years ago today was my last day.
Oh, wow.
As borough manager in Somerset. And since then, I've been very thrilled to continue as a consultant for the borough. The new manager had asked me to stick around in a consulting capacity, and which is what I love. Yeah, I love government work, and she offered me that chance, and I've been in that position for 10 years.
We talked a little bit too about the concept that we for those who don't know, who maybe are alum or community members of UPJ that know UPJ and stuff, that they haven't. When you hear borough, especially like when you think about there aren't just tiny little out of the way boroughs. There are some that are pretty not just big, but also have a lot of things going on, a lot of infrastructure and so forth. And Somerset's one of those, because you have people, you have homes, you have schools, you have industry, you have the highway, turnpike.
We do. We have major highways. We have a diversified economy. We have an industrial park, and we're the county seat. We're the physical hub of the county as well as the economic hub of the county. We have the hospital, a great employer. So we're very fortunate in Somerset, and we're doing a lot of infrastructure work right now. Water and sewer. I think we're going $20 million worth of projects in the next 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's significant.
That's a lot. of
Yeah,
investment.
and a lot of times you don't realize if it's underground, you ignore it. If it's water and sewer lines, if you don't see it, sometimes it gets ignored. Not like streets. You can see streets, you can see potholes. People want those paved all the time. You being with Geistown Borough Council all those years, you're definitely familiar with that.
No one wants to talk pipe and sewer and water, but it's actually the critical part that comes to it. And I always thought that was interesting, even when you and I would talk on alumni kind of stuff, is that I spend so much time working and having to deal in the Cambria County world where Evansburg has some of that, where you still have the state 22 and 219 close by, county seat and everything. But there's this balance of the industrial base that the city and Richland in Cambria County is versus Somerset. Somerset's that hub, like you said, is that big nexus for that county.
Right, because we're physically right in the center of the county, and it, all, as the saying goes, all roads lead to Somerset Borough. And we're surrounded by a Somerset Township, which even has more population than the borough, but the population is a lot less dense. The borough has a dense population. We have 6,000 people in less than 2 square miles.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, that Somerset's always been such a nice little community. When you think about it, it doesn't feel big, but there's a lot of people. I'm always going to talk positively of Somerset Hospital because they're the ones who helped me so much when I was so sick and dealing with the liver failure. I want to talk a little bit more about campus and stuff, but I think before we get too far big on that, because you got to attend our student our social science reunion last year as part of our 50th our 50 years of 4-year. I don't want to leave her out. You had some help. I think I want to make sure, got you back, buddy.
I did have some help. My wife, yes. As a student, there's things called term papers. Yeah. And not being a great typist, in fact, I'm not a typist at all, I would write the term papers, and I would ask my girlfriend at the time if she would type the papers for me, because that was a big help. And yes, she said yes. And I always joke with her that at the end of 4 years, instead of paying for her, let's get married. Yeah.
Well, we kind of we count her as an honorary alum.
Yeah, and speaking of that, she was given a little tag on one of the homecoming events as honorary alum when I would.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because she would always accompany me. In fact, she would be here today, but shopping took preference. So she went to the guy. I extended your offer, and she said thank you, but it gives her a chance to go shopping.
Well, you can't. We're recording here on Friday before this will come out on the Wednesday when it's 50 degrees out and it's been -4. I can understand wanting to not get cooped up on campus and go out.
Right.
But that had to be a big help having just the support that.
Oh, absolutely.
No matter what generation you are.
Absolutely. It was a big help, and plus the fact I even worked at a James Way department store. I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but James,
yeah.
I worked there during high school and college. And it's to get through, people did things like that those days. They had their wives type their term papers up for them, and she did a great job typing. Yeah.
Did at any point did you look around and say, because we talk to folks who change their mind when they're here and do something. Did anything ever stand out like, oh, I should actually take a class, like, boy, I'm going to think about going into that instead? Or were you pretty much locked in on your love of that history and the political side? I was locked in on history and political science. There were interesting courses like Earth and Planetary Science. I like that. My grandson even loves that. And there was other interesting courses, but nothing that would lead me to change any major or change my direction of what I wanted to do as a career. And I'm one of the few people that were blessed enough to get a job in my career, in my major. Yeah.
And not not too many people can say that. I'm very blessed, very fortunate that happened, and it didn't happen right away. I spent 3 years in the private sector, which was great, but my love has always been government. It's always been government.
Do you ever think about coming back and auditing a class as an alum? As someone who we've had folks who've done that on the show before. I actually have John Wozniak, our co-president, in one of my classes.
Yeah, John was on alumni council on one of my terms. Good guy. And so I never thought of that, but it would be interesting to do.
Come back and take a Dr. Alexander course again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad to see that he's still teaching and still well.
That's the kind of the running joke around here, especially in Krebs, is that if Krebs were to burn down, the only people would be here tomorrow morning would be me and Jim Alexander sitting in the rubble just talking about something.
Yep. It's good to see some things are continuing and some things never change. I like it.
If you met some of our students when you came through, and you've met them at the reunion and stuff, if you had advice to give them, what would you tell them from your life lessons here?
Be as active as you can on campus. In retrospect, I wish I could have done more things, get more involved. You don't always get that opportunity when you commute, but I tried to do a lot of things. But in retrospect, I wish I could have done a lot more, been more involved. So that's the advice I would give. Do all you can. Get that experience. Get that college experience.
I it's perfect, because it's just one of those things. You get those connections, like you talked about. There's friends and connections that you make that you've never.
Oh yeah, and coming back to the 50th reunion, I felt so welcome. When you were there, obviously I recognized you from Alumni Council, and Dr. Spector. I mean, I remember one of the when I retired. After it hit the newspaper, Dr. Spector wrote me a letter congratulating me and saying that he was proud of me as an alum. And you don't always get that with any other universities. I felt very, very warm, very humbled by that, and I told him that when I saw him. I still have the letter.
It's a touching thing in the sense that, excuse me, you can't do that when you got 30,000 students in Oakland, or more than that in Penn State or whatever. It's part of the community, and I'll tell you what, my friend, we're very glad that you're part of our UPJ community for so long.
And I'm glad to be part of it. It's a good experience.
Well, I thank you for coming in and sharing your background and your history and your story with all of us who are going to listen and tune into this. I hope it was kind of fun for you.
Been my pleasure, and like I said, thank you for the honor of being here. I love it.
I'm glad to see you, and for the rest of you who are listening to this, we hope you have a great day and you enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you next week. We're going to go get lunch.
Thank you, Matt.
Have a great week, everybody. The Tuck Shop podcast is recorded live on the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown campus. Update your contact information with us by visiting johnstown.pitt.edu/alumni. Connect with us online via Facebook and LinkedIn, or consider donating to the university at giveto.pitt.edu/giveupj.
This has been a production of Quantum Wave Media. Views expressed do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown.